there's one guy up there that is going to be on this stage tonight, and he's joining me now. Very lucky to have him, John Delaney. Thanks so much for joining us. Very much appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You were the first Democrat to announce that you were going to be running for president for 2020. You're going to be up on that stage in 2 weeks or so. Who do you want to be standing next to?
Well, you know, I don't really care about any of that game theory in many ways. You know, I'm running because I have the best ideas. I have a very different perspective. I have a very different background. I'm the only one who actually ran something, created jobs, and I've got kind of common sense solutions for how we move forward. So, you know, to me, what this debate is really about is who actually has real solutions versus who is laying out kind of impossible promises or doesn't have any plans. So, you know, I'm fine, whatever stage I'm on, who's ever on the stage with me, I'm just going to talk about...
But there's got to be certain names that you want to be on that stage with to really stand out. There's got to be some. Because at the end of the day, it is a political game, whether you want to admit it or not.
Well, I have a big contrast going on right now with Senator Sanders.
Right.
About the best way forward for universal health care. I have a plan called Better Care, which gives every American health care as a basic right. They get a basic health care package for free. But what it doesn't do is make private insurance illegal, because I don't think it's smart to tell 150 million Americans who have private insurance that they got to drop that and get a new plan, which would also tell 2 million Americans overnight that they're out of a job. And as the New York Times reported, would lead to lots of hospitals in this country closing. Mm-hmm. The Medicare for All plan also achieves universal health care, like my Better Care plan, but it does, in fact, make private insurance illegal. Very few countries do it like that. Most countries who have universal health care do what I'm proposing, France, Germany, all these places. So I have a clear contrast with Senator Sanders on this issue. So that would be a good thing to debate, because health care is the #1 issue for the American people. And I actually think the Democratic primary, in many ways, should be the health care primary.
So you're at 1% right now in Iowa. Sanders is doing pretty well, #2 in a lot of polls at the moment.
He's got a really high name ID. He ran for president last time.
So, but maybe a lot of Americans resonate with his healthcare ideas.
Again,
how do you want to make yours heard?
Because we're achieving the same goal. I think what resonates with the American people is creating universal healthcare, like Germany has, like France has, like Sweden has. But none of those countries have a single payer healthcare system that makes private insurance illegal. Mm-hmm. That's what Senator Sanders is proposing. We should debate this in front of the American people. It is the #1 issue. And I believe if we put forth a candidate who runs on telling 150 million Americans, all your viewers out there who have private insurance, and most of them like it, according to polling, that their insurance will be illegal and they have to get a new plan from the government, that'll create a lot of anxiety, and it gives Donald Trump something to beat us on. We won 2018 on health care, and I want us to win 2020 on health care, but I want us to have a common sense approach.
There are some people that are making the turn to come out against Trump. We heard former Vice President Joe Biden coming out against the president over the weekend. Beto O'Rourke this morning on Morning Joe came out pretty strong against the president, basically saying that he should be impeached at this point. Are you going to make that turn?
My view is we should trust Nancy Pelosi on this. First of all, Nancy Pelosi is one of the most impressive people I've ever met in my life.
So you don't think
She's totally
think the president should be impeached right now?
I'm not saying the president shouldn't be impeached. I'm saying we should follow Nancy Pelosi's lead. She knows exactly what she's doing. She is leading the House towards intense investigations and oversight, which is their job. And her view, which I agree with, is this will take us where it takes us, based on what we learn. I really don't think it's helpful right now for a bunch of 2020 candidates to be questioning the judgment of the person who, in my opinion, is defending our democracy right now. And I think she's doing a terrific job.
But what about questioning the judgment of the person that you're going to be running against, who's running the country?
He's terrible, right? The Democratic primary shouldn't be a contest about who can say how bad the president is the most dramatic fashion, right? Because I think we'd all be tied for first. He's unfit to be the president. He has no moral compass. If you look at what he just did yesterday, or at least the tape that came out, that un-American, unpatriotic statement he made, which is to offer to a foreign government to perhaps participate in an election and help him get elected. I mean, the tone at the top he sets to the American people is just terrible. But the impeachment process is being done in the House of Representatives, and I trust what Nancy Pelosi is doing.
At one point, this 20-plus field is going to be whittled down to one. And at one point, all of you are going to have to support that one. It could be you. It could be former Vice President Joe Biden. It could be Cory Booker. It could be Mayor Pete.
Yes. There
are a lot of individuals. It could be Kamala Harris. Is there a strategy as to how you go after one another throughout this primary process, so you don't end up being Senator Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio.
It's all about ideas for me. I mean, I think all these people are terrific. Right? It's all about ideas. I think I have the best ideas.
Doesn't the most unified party also win the election?
Yeah, but the most unified party has a battle of ideas and talks about the best way forward. And ultimately, the voters decide who is the best person to move us forward. And then we should all obviously get behind that person. This shouldn't be personal. People shouldn't be telling, like, Joe Biden is, like, of another generation and he shouldn't be right. That's all wrong. What's right is to talk about the issues. How do we fix healthcare? How do we deal with climate change? How do we build infrastructure? How do we create legislation to protect the privacy of our citizens? How do we fix our broken immigration system? Who's got the best ideas? And importantly, who can get it done? I was the third most bipartisan member of the Congress. You know, I started two businesses from scratch, created thousands of jobs. I was the first in my family to go to college. I got a track record of getting things done. I have real experiences. When you combine them with my ideas, I believe positioned me to be the best person to not only beat this president, but lead this country, restore this sense of kind of a moral compass, and actually start getting things done that matter to the American people.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.